Welcome to Hong Kong Brief. The content of the briefing includes: Chinese experts push back at Moody's for cutting bond outlook. PBOC steps up Yuan support via fixing after Moody's outlook cut. Balyasny quadruples Asia equity trading firepower after hiring. Russia killing own troops with drones to prevent POW swaps. India stock value tops $4 trillion, narrowing gap with Hong Kong. Chinese experts push back at Moody's for cutting bond outlook. Bloomberg. Chinese experts have criticized Moody's investor service for lowering its outlook on China's sovereign bonds. The experts argue that Moody's did not take into consideration the supportive policies the Chinese government has introduced for the property market. The Chinese government has also criticized Moody's for its outlook change, stating that the impact of the property downturn is under control. Chinese state media outlets are also optimistic about domestic stocks in 2024, stating that equities will experience a mild bull market as government policies help the economy. PBOC steps up Yuan support via fixing after Moody's outlook cut. Bloomberg. China has increased its support for the yuan by setting the daily reference rate at 7.1140 per dollar, a stronger rate than expected, as market sentiment was hit following Moody's downgrade of China's credit outlook. The gap between the reference rate and the average estimate was the largest in over 2 weeks, indicating that Beijing is making efforts to prevent declines in the currency. Moody's downgraded China's credit outlook to negative on Tuesday, citing increased fiscal stimulus usage and a property market downturn. Balyasny quadruples Asia equity trading firepower after hiring. Bloomberg. Balyasny Asset Management has more than quadrupled the amount of money its Asia equities team can manage after hiring new staff. The Chicago-based firm has doubled its investment team in the region in the past year, as well as increasing the amount of money they can oversee. The move comes as investors turn to hedge funds that use diverse strategies to navigate turbulent markets. Russia killing own troops with drones to prevent POW swaps. The Independent. Ukrainian military security services have accused Russian forces of killing their own troops using drones so they cannot be captured. The spokesman for the Tauride Defense Forces, Oleksandr Stupun, made the claim on Ukrainian national TV, stating that Russian soldiers are not allowed to surrender and that there have been cases where Russian drones have killed their own wounded. Ukrainian figures suggest that over the past 3 weeks, around 80 Russians have surrendered. A Ukrainian soldier on the front line has also expressed concerns, stating that he can smell a Russian offensive coming and that his men are exhausted and have lost the initiative. Meanwhile, Russian forces have intensified attacks on the town of Avdiivka, just 12 miles north of the Russian-held city of Donetsk. The Institute for the Study of War has reported that Russia has made confirmed gains in the area. Avdiivka has been heavily damaged in the conflict, with not a single building remaining intact. Ukrainian officials have reported a significant increase in artillery shelling and mortar attacks, as well as assault actions. The fighting has also spread to nearby towns of Mariinka and Bakhmut. The situation in Ukraine remains highly volatile, with ongoing clashes between Russian and Ukrainian forces. The latest accusations of Russia killing their own troops highlight the brutal nature of the conflict and the desperation of the Russian forces to maintain control. The increased attacks on Avdiivka suggest a potential escalation in the conflict, with fears of a Russian offensive looming. The international community continues to closely monitor the situation and provide support to Ukraine. India stock value tops $4 trillion, narrowing gap with Hong Kong. Yahoo! India's stock market value reached $4 trillion for the first time on Tuesday, marking a milestone for the country's equity market as it narrows the gap with Hong Kong. The market value of India's exchanges has risen by $1 trillion in less than 3 years, making it one of the best performers. It is already trading at all-time highs, with key stock benchmarks up more than 13% this year, and on track for an 8th consecutive year of gains. China tech fund beating 98% of peers spurns AI stocks on risks. Bloomberg. China's Lu Xiaoljing fund, which has returned 76% this year and outperformed 98% of its peers, has warned about the risks associated with investing in artificial intelligence, AI. Yuan, an investment officer at Qingdao Luxiu Investment Management, said there were huge fundamental risks to public safety in AI at this stage. While AI has been a boon for some Chinese companies, Yuan compared the current AI frenzy to the euphoria around Chinese private tutoring stocks in early 2021, which lost almost all their value later that year. Publisher Jimmy Lai's son presses Jolie to publicly call for father's release ahead of trial. The Globe and Mail. Sebastian Lai, the son of jailed Hong Kong newspaper publisher Jimmy Lai, has met with Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly to request Canada's assistance in freeing the pro-democracy media tycoon. Lai asked Joly to publicly call for his father's release, and expressed hope after the meeting. The elder Lai, a British citizen and publisher of Hong Kong's Apple Daily newspaper, was arrested and charged under a national security law imposed by Beijing. EU takes tough line to China to level economic playing field. Bloomberg. European Union leaders will meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping and Premier Li Qiang this week to address long-standing economic grievances. Trade will be a focal point, with the EU seeking progress on issues including data flows and market access. The EU will also ask China to crack down on Moscow's use of Chinese routes to secure banned technologies and goods. The EU is concerned that China's economic recovery, including weak domestic demand, will result in increased Chinese exports that threaten critical industries in Europe. The EU's trade deficit with China grew to over $400 billion last year. Meanwhile, China is expected to raise concerns about an ongoing anti-subsidies investigation into Chinese electric vehicles and the EU's economic security strategy. Taiwan's big China ETF bust shows extent of financial decoupling. Bloomberg. Taiwan's economic and financial decoupling from China has deepened with the near collapse of the world's largest Chinese bond ETF market. Local ETFs that track Chinese bonds have seen their assets under management plunge more than 94% from a peak of over 180 billion new Taiwan dollars, $58 billion, in 2019. The cratering value of those ETFs echoes the broader investment landscape, in which global funds have fled China's bond market due to the nation's vast yield differential with the U.S. Taiwanese banks have been reducing their exposure to China for the past 10 quarters, and the country's direct investment into China has fallen almost 40% this year. Worsening China earnings are giving bears more reasons to sell. Bloomberg. China's weakening earnings are dampening hopes for a stock market rebound as the economic slump looks set to continue. Profit delivery for Q3 worsened, with 30% of MSCI China Index members reporting earnings that fell short of consensus forecasts, compared to 18% in Q2. Aggregate earnings per share for these companies fell 6% YoY, marking a fourth straight quarter of declines. The weak earnings momentum may give investors more reason to sell Chinese equities. Smithfield Foods ends contracts with 26 U.S. pig farms, citing oversupply. Yahoo! Smithfield Foods, the world's largest pork processor, plans to end contracts with 26 hog farms in Utah as it struggles with oversupply in the market. The company said that the pork industry is experiencing historically challenging hog production market conditions. Smithfield also stated that the termination of the contracts will result in layoffs of up to 70 employees, or a third of the workers in Smithfield's hog production operations. Moody's puts China on downgrade warning as pressures mount. Nikkei Asia. Credit rating agency Moody's has warned it may downgrade China's credit rating due to the costs of bailing out local governments and state firms and controlling the property crisis. Moody said it lowered the outlook on China's A1 debt rating to negative from stable as it estimates China's economic growth will slow to 4% in 2024 and 2025, and average 3.8% from 2026 to 2030. China's finance ministry dismissed the concerns as unnecessary, calling the decision disappointing. Real estate developer Westbank faces onslaught of litigation for Canadian, U.S. projects due to unpaid bills. The Globe and Mail. Canadian developer Westbank is facing a series of problems at several projects in Toronto and Seattle, including contractors claiming millions of dollars in unpaid bills. More than 24 construction and trade businesses have been fighting with Westbank over unpaid bills. The allegations have not been proven in court. Westbank has not commented on the details of the disputes, stating that it expects to reach a resolution. The construction industry has been struggling recently with rising borrowing costs and construction expenses due to the soaring cost of materials and labor. Residential construction expenses are up 58% over 3 years. Several other Canadian developers have also experienced financial difficulties this year. Westbank has been involved in several lawsuits and liens over the past year. In Seattle, more than 24 construction companies have accused the developer and its former general contractor, Graham Construction and Management, of not paying them for work on residential complexes Museum House and WB 1200. In Toronto, Westbank has been sued by several construction companies for unpaid bills at the Mirvish Village site. The company has traditionally acted as its own general contractor, but in Seattle and Toronto, it employed external contractors. Westbank has pushed out completion dates at several projects due to rising borrowing costs and construction expenses. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.